Yo, what's good? It's Keith. This is another book review. I know I be in my security outfit and stuff like that. I will eventually find a better place to record these videos. Um, but this is not bad either. It's really more about just getting the information out. I'm not really trying to make it um, glamorous or anything like that. But eventually, as I get better, I will up the production on these videos um, and stuff like that. But today, well, people been calling me Dr. Umar because I did a MLK book and I did a Malcolm X book. Which is fine, but I just don't think I'm Dr. Umar in no way. I do respect how hard he go for black people. Um, but I'm not Dr. Umar, y'all. He's very knowledgeable too, though. Like I feel like a lot of people laugh at Dr. Umar and they kind of make him a joke, but whole time you gotta listen to his message. You know, outside of the snow bunny shit and all that, like he really be having some good information for people. To just further their knowledge in all things like African American and our struggle. But this one is a different one. This book that I've been reading is called the Indian Country, and the author is Peter Matheson. I think I said that right. And yeah, this book is, whew, it's so crazy. Like I think that Native American history, like we bring it up, but we gloss over it so much. Like, um, and even in this book, like I don't think that it was. I don't think that even though like it's a lot in here, I still think there's some things maybe missing, and it's a lot of tribes. It's hella tribes for one, and I remember like I think like in the seventh grade we learned about the Trail of Tears, which even back then that shit kind of like messed with me a little bit, but kind of really getting how far like this thing went with the Native Americans, it really made me mad. I ain't gonna lie, it made me mad because of how not obviously we can't put all these tribes in one box, but for the most part the natives was tapped in spiritually and they were really into like serving the earth and just being in tune with the earth, the animals, um, the water, just all these things that I think like as America we just don't even consider. Like we are so like into capitalism that we don't pay attention to other things that are more important. It's kind of like a person who break their leg, right? You don't see the value in it until you break it, but the whole time your legs is what holds you up and is the reason that you able to walk around and what I'm saying, get around. So think about the earth like that. It's the foundation to our living situation, but yet we don't take care of it, and it don't make no sense because without the earth, nigga, how we living here? How are we gonna survive? You know what I'm saying? And capitalism don't really consider that. And I think that throughout this book, the Native Americans kind of like fighting with a bunch of things, like trying to keep their culture together, but also fighting with kind of being forced to become Americanized. Well, United States-anized. That's not even a word, but because they already American, right? They Native Americans, but in the sense of our country, the United States, like being Americanized, like their culture was completely different from the culture that the Europeans brought. So basically, the Europeans wanted to turn them into Europeans and kind of like turn their back on their culture. And they did it in a bunch of ways. Like you had schools that some of the natives kids had to go to learn English and stuff like that. But at the whole time, they also were getting stripped away from their culture. Yeah, they were being stripped away from their culture. And, those effects, it started to affect them on, it was a point in time where they didn't want nothing to do with the American system. But eventually they had to, it was either do that to survive or just be left to die, yeah, like it's kind of crazy how deep this thing go. I do got a script and stuff, so I'm gonna be looking at the script to kind of go. But like, look at the names of how many people or how many tribes just this book goes over. It's not all of them in general. It's just the ones that this book go over. So you got Canada down to the south. So you got the Hopi that was in this book, the Cherokee, the Mohawk, Yurok, Karuk, the Lakota, the Chumash, the Paiute, Shoshone, the Ute of the Great Basin, and the Navajo. These are some of the tribes that kind of was showcased throughout this book. And he goes back to like the 1800s, but it's predominantly like from like 1912 to like 1980s, because it was just a lot of stuff that went on in that time that I feel like it don't get talked about enough. They all had unique experiences. It was people being displaced. You had people getting discriminated against. You had people who got poisoned, stripped of their culture. I brought that up. Enslaved, lied to, as far as like treaties. You had betrayal. You had other natives who kind of bought into the capitalistic system, and they sold out a bunch of natives because they became capitalists. And that's something we're gonna talk about a little more further down the line. But it's really, honestly, it's so bad that I don't know how we could realistically repay the Native Americans. Like, even if we was like, we already give them reparations, but I don't even think that was suitable, because not all of the natives signed treaties. Like, not all of them were down for that. And even for the ones who signed the treaties, pretty much all of them got broken. But as far as like the payments, not all of them actually got paid, because they didn't believe in currency, like in that sense. People took their land took, and then like once they got it took, they never got repaid for the land that got took from them. Some of them got moved on to land that had minerals and all types of natural resources. But as soon as our government found out that they had the natural resources, they moved them. In some cases, they just start digging and radiated the whole place. So you had some places that had gold, you had some places that had silver, you had some places that had oil, but you also had some places that had uranium, which if you was lucky, you was on some land that had the other places, the other things, like this, the gold, silver, the oil. But honestly, if you weren't that lucky, you probably were on like uranium, which uranium is something that we use to make nukes, which is bad. But once you, the one thing that they don't tell you about these natural resources is once you dig up that area, it takes a while for the land to come back and be suitable. So on top of it being like a resource like uranium, you could dig into the ground and now that land will be radiated. You kill the animals, you kill the plant life, but you also get the people who live there sick because it's radiation at the end of the day. And they have a bunch of cases where like you have families that was sitting on these on these uranium like deposits, and once they started to dig into them, they started getting sick. And then it's other things that you gotta think about. You got like acid rain and stuff that could come about, and you know it radiates further than they can even calculate at that time. So it's some places in the middle of the country we kind of ask like, damn, why isn't it people living there? It's because of these situations right here. It's not that people don't want to live there. It's also that some of this land is probably not suitable for life because of the radiation. So you got to be careful. You gotta be careful when you buying shit in like Wyoming and Utah and stuff like that. Make sure you checking to see if the land is radiated. What else? So stories like the Killers of the Flower Moon kind of come in too when you think about this book. You start thinking about a bunch of stuff. I even start thinking about well, that's a whole breakdown of its own, because that's a whole thing that I feel like we got to get into, but I probably just won't do it right now. Like you had tribes that didn't even believe in ownership altogether, so you know they never thought of owning a land. So even when it was times where they felt like they purchased the land just outright, it's kind of like these natives didn't even look at land ownership in the same way as how America looked at it. So it was just like the United States government definitely got over on the natives with this one. Like the system of America didn't really fit with the natives as a whole. So yeah, while reading, I really seen like the cons of capitalism here is constant. It's a constant reminder that we always talk about like socialism and communism and Marxism not being the systems that really work. But I feel like capitalism, it only works. It's only worked for this long because because we take advantage of so many different people, but it's still not really working. It worked for some people, but it don't work for everybody. And I feel like the natives kind of had like more of a socialist way of doing things, and I think us as human beings naturally we are more like socialists than capitalists. And we in this foreign system, and it kind of like it kind of gets us out of our natural habitat, like the way we, like, honestly, like, the Native Americans, like, you can't own land. The land give us the things that we need, but at the same time don't take too much, because it's enough for everybody to get some. But you know what I'm saying, you take care of the land, it take care of you type of way of looking at it. And it's all about sharing and stuff like that, and just being more aware of where you are in the ecosystem. Another thing that I kind of peeped, like, by reading this, not watching it, reading it, is the natives and the black struggle really aligns. Like, from broken promises, from discrimination, from racism, from environmental racism, like, all these things really align with like both parties. And I think, like, the natives, the black Americans, even like Mexicans, because a lot of Mexicans are Native Americans. They are like a mixture of Native Americans. Like, we should all kind of like be on the same page with this, like, having this information. And I ain't gonna lie, like, where I'm at, I feel like in Northern California, a lot of us kind of get it, but in other places, it kind of like, it kind of feel like it's still like a divide between black and brown. And I wish it wasn't like that, because we have so much in common. Even to the point, like, some of us even share Native American blood, and all these things. So I really think, like, our connection overall should be a lot stronger. And I get it, we not all a monolith. I always say that, but, like, when you really start to see the system, we've all been attacked by this motherfucker in hella different angles. All these things. Why not work together on some things versus, like, not? It really don't make no sense. My last and final point about this, I think we all should take time and show respect to the natives and what they tried to create here. Oh, excuse me. And what they tried to uphold as like a society, as like a bunch of tribes. And I also think, like, if you are a country that have like tribal, that have like tribes, you should probably treat them a certain way. Like, just because a area has tribes don't mean that they're primitive. They just have a different way of looking at things. And I just wish we could have treated our natives a lot better because they knew stuff about the land that we just didn't understand at that time. And they were the whole book, they were, against a lot of stuff that we do, that if we would have listened, we probably wouldn't even have global warming the way we have it, or like we would have, like, the resources, we probably would have less resources on some like natural resources type hype, but at least we have the land, and our ecosystem wouldn't be so messed up. We wouldn't be affected by global warming the way we have been. We still have buffalo. The buffalo gone. You know what I'm saying? Because of how we moved in North America. Like, I'm pretty sure it's way more. Oh yeah, the bears, they didn't, and I mean, to a certain extent, we didn't really want the bears, but still like, that's still animals that's gone. Like, these things start to add up. It's a hierarchy on Earth, and yes, we could say we are the apex predators, but at the same time, you need these other animals to kind of help with things on Earth. So yeah, like I said, show respect to them natives, man. They knew what they was talking about. Yeah, man, this story it's a tough read. Honestly, like, it was sometimes where I just sat back and was just like upset reading it. It took me a long time to finish it. I really think maybe I could do like a more in-depth review just so people could kind of understand where I'm coming from. But yeah, like, if you can, please get the book, read it, and really like digest this information. I would say read it more than once. I'm gonna probably read it again sometime, but yeah, man, it's very informative. I think we all should, like, no matter what background you come from, we should all be looking into each other's struggles and looking for understanding. And if we actually did this, I think we would have less racial tension today, because, like I said, our education system now, it does so good of a job to sanitize these things. And so, you getting, half-ass education with the schools, and then, a person might put out a movie that furthers the sanitation and reinforce some of these narratives. Not all of them are 100% correct, and we get what we get a lot of the times, and it's just like half-ass history being told. It's two sides to a story, and they say the victor always tell history, but when it's not their history, they tend to not tell it truthfully or thorough enough. And so, if the shoe was on the other foot, would we tell, other people history thoroughly? Probably not. But, that's not where we at right now. That's not the reality that we live in. And I think that, when people start to bring up these points, it's like, okay, that's not the reality we live in. So it really don't matter to bring it up, because for the most part in America, white people, they did their damage. Like, nigga, y'all did y'all damage. Like, you know, we could point fingers and say like human beings or you know, a certain way, but I, reading this book, it just reinforced some shit that I already thought. I'm not gonna spew all my thoughts on it, but it definitely reinforced some shit that I think that the colored folk probably should reevaluate and but this is why history is important, because if you don't know this shit, you will start just going around like, none of this shit really matter. Why do I have to pay for the crimes of my grandpa? No, a lot of this shit happened in the 70s and the 80s. Like, this shit is not that far along the way. Like, it wasn't just, and even then, like when we start going to civil rights and shit, it's people still walking around that was alive during the 60s, y'all. So let's not make it seem like that shit was a long time ago. If we want to talk about slavery, all right, maybe you got something there. But even then, it still affects a slavery out there. You want to talk about, you know, some other shit, these reservations. Not all these reservations are are just like happy to live on and all that. Some of these reservations are fucked up. They have their own issues. You know, just because you getting a check and shit like that, that don't mean that those experiences didn't happen. And it's an aftermath, it's a consequence to every decision we make. So, yeah, I would say, being that we Americans and we have so much power throughout the world, this is why it's important for us to actually read these stories and know what the fuck is going on, because we have so much power. And to be a person that just care about their own world, like you're selfish. You're a selfish ass person. And yeah, that's specifically for the people that just be like, oh, this is not my fight, this is not my struggle. I hear from a lot of white people, but it's not just white people who say that. Please take the time to not just look at your struggles, but understand that, you know, it's other people going through shit. So yeah, that's my review on Indian Country. That's my review on Indian Country. Yeah, man, I'm out.